All right, I'm gonna call that right at the 91 participant mark. Oh, now we got the even 90. Perfect. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Phil Barbash. I am the Director of Camping Service, and I'd like to welcome you all to NCAC's fourth installment of our webinar series, Let's Get Camping, Planning for Summer 2021. Tonight is all about Scouts BSA camping opportunities, and I do want to thank you for bearing with us. I know that we were originally supposed to have this a few weeks back. The governor's order in Virginia kind of took us by surprise a little bit, so we readjusted our program and pivoted as many of us have had to do during all of this, and we are back with more information tonight. Before we get started, I want to introduce everybody that is a panelist with us tonight. We've got representation from all of our Scouts BSA programs going on this summer. And I will start with our back-end tech, Miss Sarah Moses.
Hello, I'm Sarah. I'm the camping specialist. If you've got registration questions, we've probably exchanged emails. I'll be here on the back doing the tech end and managing the question and answer. So if you have questions, be sure to put them in the Q&A and we'll get to them towards the end if we don't answer them before then.
All right, thank you, Sarah. Let's go over to Mr. Drew Rivera.
Hello, my name is Drew Rivera. I am the program director at Camp Bowman, and this is my 9th year on staff.
Thank you, Drew. Let's move over to Thomas Van Patten.
Hi there, my name's Thomas. I am the camp director at Camp Olmsted.
Right. Now let's go over to Mr. Warner.
Hi, I'm Chris. I'm the camp director at Camp Marriott. I'm super excited to be here. If you have any questions, you can always ask me, or you can email me at campmarriott@gmail.com.
Right, excellent. Thank you, Chris. And let's go over to Mr. Yankaskas.
Good evening. My name is Kurt Yankaskas. I'm the camp director for the past 14 years of Camp Catoctin BSA in Thurmont, Maryland, and we're looking forward to having some of you there this summer. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Kurt. And finally, let's go over to Craig Weston.
Hello, I'm Craig Weston. I'm chairman of your council camping committee, and I'm partnering with Phil to try to get us to summer camp this year.
All right, thank you, Craig. Craig is also going to be here to answer questions if you have anybody who is part of the Snyder Specialty Week. He can also answer questions on that, and we'll talk. If you've never heard of that before, we will talk about that a little bit here. I want to open with a poll tonight. So when you're ready, Sarah, let's throw that up on the screen and let's gauge our audience a bit. All right, so pretty simple. Which camp are you interested in this evening? And you can pick more than one. Sarah, did you launch it?
Yep, it's launched.
Okay, results aren't coming up on my end. Usually they pop right up for me. Hey, there we go. I like that better. All right, so it looks like a slightly significant majority are with us tonight, 45% for Camp Olmsted, and 39% Camp Bowman, 12% Camp Marriott, 7% Camp Catoctin, 10% Camp Snyder Specialty Week, and a small 2% 2 people, and wow, it makes this easy. We're right at that even 100. 2 people interested in provisional camping at Camp Marriott as well. Okay, so we will go ahead and move into it, and we can keep that in mind. It's good to see we have representation from pretty much everyone across the board. All right, so we will move into what I'm sure a lot of people are interested in hearing about tonight, which is some of the updates that have been made in the state of Virginia. I do want to preface this with Camp Catoctin is a camp that is not in the state of Virginia. So they may be doing things a little bit differently due to their local laws there, and feel free to ask Kurt about that as we're going through Q&As, because you can see that on his end, okay? But for all of the other camps, we are in Virginia, and we do have to follow specific orders. So what does that mean? First of all, this is the very first part of all of this. The governor's order mandates either a 14-day symptom screening or a negative COVID test within the last 7 days before arrival at camp. Okay, what does that mean? At some point, we are going to have a form out there. We don't have the form yet, but there's going to be a form that you sign, essentially saying that I have been through a 14-day symptom screening, or you are going to bring a copy of your negative PCR test results to camp with you. That negative test needs to have happened in the last 7 days. Okay. Again, this is state mandated, so there's no real getting around this. And the 14-day symptom screening in particular does need to be only with members of your immediate family unit. Okay, very important. And those family unit need to be in that quarantine with you. All right, so you cannot, you need to basically quarantine. They're calling it a symptom screening, but seems to be a quarantine for that 14 days before you get to camp. Okay. Second thing, governor mandates the use of cohorts at camp. And we did kind of chat about this a little bit before, but we've got some additional details on what that means for us. Cohort buddies. Scouts are going to be required to sign up for badges with members of their cohort. Okay, so when I go to sign up for a badge, I need to have a cohort buddy that signs up with me. I do not necessarily need to sign up everyone in my cohort, but I need to sign up at least one additional buddy that is going to attend that merit badge session or that activity with me. Okay. Scouts do not have to wear masks or distance or anything of that nature when in their cohort with no other cohorts present. And this is directly from the mouth of the Virginia Department of Health that we did. There was a summer camp coalition formed, and we met with them and we sat down and said, what is, let's get to the bottom of all this COVID stuff. What does the cohort thing mean? And this is what came out of that, which is that when they are in their cohort with no other cohorts present or other scouts or adults from other cohorts, they do not have to wear a mask, they do not have to distance. That is going to be treated as their family unit during their time at camp. Okay, so when you're in that patrol site, you're sitting around the campfire, you don't have to distance, you don't have to wear masks. If you're in your tent, you don't have to distance, you don't have to wear masks. Your tent mate is part of your cohort. Okay, very important to note that. Scouts must not be within 10 feet of another cohort at any time while in camp. Okay, this is very important. When you go to develop these cohorts, they cannot intermingle within 10 feet of each other. And we are going to be holding pretty strict to that. Okay, because again, this is the state law, and that is right from the Virginia Department of Health. All right, as a result, merit badge class caps are going to be low, and not every scout is going to be able to enroll in every badge that he or she wants. At one of my first webinars, I talked about the importance of flexibility in all of this. This is a moving target, the game changes, and we have to be able to adapt. And this is one of the things that we do need to accept as realities. There's not going to be as much flexibility in the ability to enroll every scout in every merit badge that he or she wants to attend. Okay? But we are going to do our best to accommodate, just as we always do. All right, and then just like I said, all COVID guidelines are subject to change. We will change with the law as it changes. We will change with guidance, with additional guidance, additional data, additional information, additional mandates, and anything that comes out of our risk management team, because they are kind of the governing ordinance here. Okay, so we will continue to monitor that moving target, but for right now, this is how we are going to operate our summer camps. A little more insight on cohorts. Okay, first point that I want to bring up: 25 is the maximum number of people in a cohort. It is, okay, so let me go into a little bit of detail there. People is adults and youth. Okay, very important to note that. So 25 is the maximum number of people, not just the maximum number of youth. 25 is not the suggested size, it is the maximum size. Okay, so if you're out there and you're a smaller troop, let's say you're only planning on bringing 8 youth to camp, 8 youth, 2 adults, or 8 youth, 3 adults, something like that, and you're saying, well, I don't even have 25 people total, how can I come to camp? That is the maximum size for a cohort. So if you have that group of people, they would form one cohort, okay? Or you can break them up into smaller cohorts if you'd like, okay? And that's what I go to here. And this can be done with any level or size of troop, but I'm specifically referring to some of those larger units out there. You can use smaller patrols as cohorts as well, okay? And why is that important? Once cohorts are established, they are not to be within 10 feet of each other at any time, even at the troop level, okay? Not for meals, campfire, seating, etc. So if you are a troop of, let's say you have a troop of, say, 60, all right, and that's comprised of youth and adults. If you were to say, okay, well, you've got a couple of options. Option one is you would break those into just your typical patrols with 8 to 10 youth in each patrol, and they would travel around camp, and their patrol is, similar. We've already almost been doing the cohort model in the BSA for a little while now. So their patrol is similar to their cohorts for the week, and that patrol would travel around. But it is important to note that if you were a troop of 60 and you broke into 6 groups of 10, once that group of 10 is established as your cohort, they cannot intermingle with anyone else from your troop because they are their cohort and they are traveling around as their cohort, okay? So in the campsite, they are going to have their own campsite with their own fire pit. Granted, they might see people going to and from the latrine, but they are going to be their own group that does not interact, okay? That is very, very important, very, very important to note. So you've got option one with the troop of 60, where you go around as cohorts of 10, or option two, you could split into 3 groups of 20. You see how that works? So now you get a little bit more options of people that you could tent with, or how you spread out the troop and just general interaction throughout your week. You get that option of 20 or up to 25 to interact with during that week. But once you establish those cohorts, they can't mingle with each other. That is very important, okay? This is a layout example of kind of what we're looking at in terms of a merit badge class, right? So this is probably more different cohorts in any given station or activity than is typical. But all of these, as you can see, and I know that the lines with the arrows are not exactly to scale, but pay attention to the number. The number does not change there, that each of these are going to have 10 feet of social distance between them at any time. So when we set up those areas, we are going to set up our program areas in accordance with this to allow for pods of that nature, similar to what you've seen out there when if you go out to eat and you've got the little house. I don't think we're going to be as fancy as the little houses when you go out to eat, but we are going to have some established areas for those cohorts to utilize. Okay, that's most of what we have in COVID. I'm sure there are questions that are going to come up, but we'll hold off until the Q&A section. I do want to just touch base on the general offerings that we have as part of our programs, okay? First off, Goshen Scouts BSA camps. A good portion of you said you're here for either Bowman, Olmsted, or Marriott. They are 1-week sessions starting on the 27th of June and running all the way through the end of July. So we run 5 weeks at all 3 of those camps. Bowman, kind of famous for its patrol cooking. Bowman is patrol cooking only, and I think a lot of the troops that go to Bowman will will reiterate that to you that they do only patrol cooking. All right. Marriott has a second option, does do patrol cooking, but also does heater stack. That is an option if you're staying at Marriott. So we bring the food to your campsite. And then Olmsted is the one Scouts BSA camp with a dining hall. At this time, we are still planning on utilizing that dining hall. We are going to be utilizing it in shifts, just like we talked about, with a lot of social distance and some outdoor seating options as well. Again, moving target, if that changes, we will certainly let you know about that. Okay. Camp Catoctin. Kurt's here from Camp Catoctin, and that is, like you said, an option up in the Thurmont area of Maryland. That's running August 8th through 14th. And it is a wonderful program, and they've got some real strong experts out there to help walk you through some of these things. So I'd encourage you, even if you are going to a week at one of the other Goshen Scouts BSA camps, you can consider even a second week provisionally. Okay. Also, Scout Specialty Week at Snyder. This is an all provisional program. We will still be utilizing the cohort method, but it is an all provisional cohort. It is all provisional cohort. So once they come, they are now in their provisional troop. Okay. July 18th through the 24th at Camp William B. Snyder, right as we're wrapping up the Cub camping programs out there, which I would certainly encourage. If any of you all have feeder packs, I would certainly encourage them to attend as well. Ooh. All right. Like I said, Camp Catoctin has some field experts. It is taught by experts, professionals in their field. They only run for that 1 week to week and a half period. So they have people that have a lot of expert experience in whatever they're teaching that are able to come out and teach those subjects. So it's a really special program, and it was pretty exciting to see in person as well. Scout Specialty Program, a couple things I wanted to note. Again, like I said, all provisional. And also Michael's Woodshop is a part of that. I think some of you have had some experience with that. It was developed by one of our volunteers, and he has really done a fantastic job with it, and has basically built a whole wood shop with full programming, and youth can use it to work on their Pinewood Derby cars, and Scouts BSA can build larger projects. We've got all the power tools that you need in there, and obviously under supervision of experienced volunteers as well. So we're going to be doing some of those woodworking merit badge projects in there. So it's a really exciting and special thing to see. Ooh. All right, there we go. All right, some of our frequently asked questions. Do I need to wear a mask in my cohort? Like I talked about at the beginning, no, not when there are no other cohorts around. Okay. Once there are other people within your vicinity, then people are going to be required to wear a mask. So this is not the year that Goshen or any of our camps, I would imagine, are going to be mask free. But if you are just in your cohort, in your campsite, do not need to wear a mask. How will the 14-day symptom pre-screening or 7-day PCR test results be monitored? I did talk about this at the beginning. We do not have the form out yet, but there will be a form that I put out there. We'll be emailing it out as well as posting it on our website that basically says, here are the symptoms that I've been monitoring myself for. I am signing that I have gone through that 14-day symptom pre-screening, or you can set, or attached is a copy of my negative PCR test result. Okay. What's the status of bus transportation to Goshen? At this time, we can't safely offer bus transportation to Goshen. We will, again, let you know if that changes, but where we're at right now is there's some restrictions taking place in that. Cohorts, when they come to camp, are encouraged and mandated to travel to and from that camp together. Again, once you start mixing cohorts in that sort of bubble, it becomes very, very difficult. So at this time, we can't safely offer it. We will let you know if that changes. My youth wants to attend camp provisionally. Which one of the options should he or she pick? Well, this is kind of a tricky one to answer. Your options are Marriott, the Scout Specialty Week at Snyder, or Camp Catoctin, which also takes provisionals. And there's different programming going on at each one of those options. Okay, so all of our camps will have their program either already have their program schedule online or will do so shortly. And you'll be able to kind of see the program and ask some questions and decide on what works best for you, or why not pick more than one. That's also an option as well. Okay, and we have some youth that take us up on that do the dynamic trio. Okay. What if the week my unit/scouts wants is already full? We have tons of options. So if you are someone that said, I want to come with my troop to summer camp this year, and you picked any of the weeks that we're open, there is still a spot for your troop somewhere during that week. Okay, so if your commitment is to the week itself that you want to go, we can find a way to get you in. So if you wanted to, let's say you wanted to go to Camp Olmsted, but it's already full that first week, we do have openings at Camp Marriott that are still there. Okay, so if you wanted to, if you wanted to go a second week, you can pick one of the other camps as well. So I do want to stress that any week that you choose, we do still have openings somewhere right now. Okay. And finally, I just want to go through a couple of our resources. Obviously, we have our Goshen COVID protocols and our Snyder COVID protocols online. Again, we're going to be updating that, and we will notify you as we do that. And then Camp Catoctin, CampCatoctinBSA.org, Scout Specialty Week, and that's part of the Snyder website, but it links you directly to that program. And then just a link to the Virginia Governor's Order, and you can certainly look it over and email me any feedback that you have on it. But that is what we're going by, and that's what we're basing a lot of these policies on. And that's why I say, as we get we've already gotten one update since the last update. So as we get updates on that, we will adapt and overcome. Okay. All right. That is most of what I have here. And I want to kick off the question and answer portion of this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have Sarah kind of toss me the soft or throw the hard balls in this direction. And one of our panelists will chime in and answer whichever one it pertains most closely to. But I imagine a good amount of them will be me. So fire away, Sarah.
All right. First question is about the protocols, the symptom screening versus the molecular test. What if you're already vaccinated?
Good question. That is a very good question, and it did get brought up with the Virginia Department of Health, and their response was, at this time, that is not pertinent to our policies. So even if you are vaccinated, you still are going to need to do one of these two things. But very good question. I brought that one up as well.
All right. And can you go over a little bit more detail? The symptom screening, is that a quarantine, or what does that entail?
Yes. So I'm just going to go out there and answer that in the affirmative. It is a quarantine, and it is a quarantine for members of your immediate family unit as well. So you are going to be quarantining with them and monitoring your symptoms with them before you get to camp.
And that is an or, so you can do the symptom screening or the molecular test.
That's correct.
All right. Is there a minimum size for a cohort?
Great question. There is no minimum size for a cohort unless you are signing up for merit badges. If you're signing up for merit badges, you need to have at least one additional member of your cohort. And I do want to actually touch on that and elaborate a little bit. We want to also encourage you to sign up with as many people in that cohort as possible for those badges. So scouts really are encouraged to be developing similar merit badge schedules as they go around camp. So if you're bringing a troop of, let's just use even numbers to make it simple. If you're bringing a troop of 8 youth to camp, and 4 of them are, say, 11 and 12 years old, and 4 of them are, 13 and 14 years old, maybe you split and you say that, even though you're one cohort, but you say that for the purposes of us developing badges, 4 of you will try to develop the same merit badge schedule, and the other 4 of you will develop the same merit badge schedule, because that's just going to make it a lot easier for us to make sure that everybody gets their pod and gets that room and has that partner to do things with in their merit badge classes. Okay.
All right. Along that line, how does merit badge registration work for provisionals, or between the provisional program at Camp Marriott and the provisional program at Camp Snyder? How does that work in the cohort model?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, at the end of the day, we're going to group you as a cohort, and the Virginia's regulations were developed utilizing a method outside of scouting, which is far more common, that youth do come to camp on their own rather than in troops. So we're almost a little bit fortunate in that we already kind of use part of this cohort model. But what we're going to do is we're going to take all of those youth and we're going to combine them into a cohort, or maybe multiple cohorts that go about camp together. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at who is signed up for what, and we're going to contact you and kind of form that discussion accordingly to see how we can make the merit badge schedules work.
All right, next question. What is the minimum number of adults per cohort? Do you have to have 2 deep leadership, or if you have a larger troop of 2 cohorts, can you assign 1 adult leader to each cohort?
Very interesting question. As far as the cohorts go, at this time, we do need to have 2 deep leadership within the cohorts. That is important, as that cohort will be together all week. But again, that's one of those that I will voice that question, and I'll kind of carry that question up, and I will let you know if that changes. But for now, I'm going to answer that in the affirmative, that 2 deep leadership at each cohort's level.
Here's one that we probably should have addressed earlier. What exactly does provisional mean?
Oh, wow. Sorry about that. Provisional is similar to what I was describing in most other summer camps in the world. Obviously, at BSA camp, we travel with our troop, typically. Provisional is a youth that simply wants to go to camp on their own rather than with their troop. It is a smaller scale program than we typically have, but it does exist, and it adds that opportunity out there. If you're a youth and your troop says, well, we're going to this camp this week, and your family vacation is planned that week, or you have summer school or something else is going on that week, you can still come to one of our camp programs, and we can still provide that program for you.
All right. Next question. Are there any travel restrictions before coming to camp, like a 30-day plane, train, or cruise ship restriction?
Like I said, we do want you to travel to and from camp with your cohort. So that is the only travel restriction, other than beforehand, the 14-day screening or the negative test. But as far as just the physical part of traveling itself, we want you to travel to and from camp with your cohort.
All right, related question with the symptom screening and the molecular test. Where does that come from?
That can come from any of the various places that offer them now. I know that each time that I have gone to get tested, it's just been a CVS, and it's a free test. And even, I got tested in the peak of all of this, and even then they were typically able to turn it around. I think the longest I waited was 72 hours. So CVS is a good option. Also, if you just go on your local county website, they have they should have a ton of options of testing centers that are all free. And then also, if you are going to your doctor or something like that, they'll have that option there as well. But you might have to pay for it.
That was actually a different question. Sorry, I worded it strange. Did we come up with the symptom screening versus molecular test, or how did we come up with that?
That was mandated by the Virginia Department of Health. Or sorry, excuse me, mandated by the governor of Virginia with input from the Virginia Department of Health.
All right, here's a question for the Goshen Scouts BSA camps. Are there going to be first-year camp programs or first-year camper programs, new scout programs? Oh, and for the other camps as well.
Do you guys want to field that one, or do you want me to field it?
Camp
Yes,
Catoctin.
first year camper programs. Oh,
Camp
first year camper
Catoctin has a
programs.
first-year program.
Do you guys want to specify how those will work?
So one of the things that we're going to be doing to make the first year camper programs work better for the Goshen Scouts BSA camps is, instead of having all of the scouts do their merit badges in one half of the day and then all come together for requirements, various rank advancement requirements in this other half of the day, they're going to be further split up into groups where half will be doing requirements in the morning and then merit badges in the afternoon, and then the other half will be doing merit badges in the morning, requirements in the afternoon, to reduce that group size, to make social distancing and making sure all of the participants get adequate instruction easier to do.
All right, thanks, Thomas. Anything else any of you other camp guys want to throw in on your first year program? All right, good deal.
Actually, I have something I want to add about the first year programs.
Please do.
If it is your scouts' first year at summer camp, but they've actively been working on a lot of rank advancement requirements since they've joined maybe a year plus ago, please check what your individual camp's first year camper program is planning on doing for those rank advancement requirements to make sure it won't be redundant for your your individual scouts, because maybe what we're covering they've already done, and even if it is their first year at camp, the program just might not be appropriate for them.
Great. All right, what's next, Sarah?
Sorry, give me a sec. Sorting through the questions.
Yeah, no problem.
Here's an adult-related one. So what is adults previously last year, in preparation for last year, we were saying every adult needs to be registered with the BSA. Now we've gone back to the 72 hours. Is that correct?
That is correct. So any adult that is coming to summer camp for more than 72 hours or more needs to be registered with the BSA with youth protection training.
Do those 72 hours need to be consecutive?
They do not need to be consecutive.
All right, here's a quarantine related question. Can you go over more about what the symptom screening and quarantine is, or what close contact means? Can parents still go to their jobs? Can people still go to the grocery store? Can there be troop and patrol meetings, etc.?
Yeah, so the idea is parents can still go to their jobs, but the idea is that the youth is restricting their contact to just that family unit. So you know, I guess I should clarify, because I did say that everybody has to be quarantining in the house. The parents can still go to work if they need to go to work. We would prefer if they're working from home, obviously, or if you can make a situation where you have a whole cohort quarantine together in a household that is, actually don't do that. Don't do that. Strike that from the comments. But I would say that the order is literally written to say that youth should be restricting their contact to those in their family unit. Okay, so we're just narrowing down the amount of people that they are coming in contact with. So please do make every effort to do that, and it is required that anyone that is coming to camp does that. So if you are coming to camp as an adult, you do need to quarantine for that 14-day period.
All right. Tom, you've got a bunch of Olmsted Trailshead related questions here. Can you elaborate more on how the merit badge signups work for that?
Yes. So for merit badge signups for Trailshead at Camp Olmsted, we believe that the merit badges that are most appropriate for first-year campers are the merit badges that interest those scouts the most. So they can sign up for badges they want, either signing up for badges in the morning or the afternoon, and then selecting a Trailshead group to do requirements in the other half of the day that from what they sign up for merit badges in.
All right, so they'll choose whether they're in the morning or the afternoon with the rest of their one or more buddies.
Exactly, to keep those cohorts together, yes. Are there other questions related? I'm looking for Olmsted specifically.
I don't know, but you can keep
I
checking.
am looking.
All right, this is a quarantine one for Phil again. If people are attending NYLT or they're doing consecutive weeks of camp, how does that work with the symptom screening, especially if the group they're going to, say, Lynn-Hoxton with is different than the group they're going to, say, Olmsted with?
Yes, that's a really good question. If you're carrying over week to week at Goshen, I would say that your 14-day or your negative test result before you got to camp is sufficient. So once you are at camp, you're good to go as far as cohorts. Now, obviously, if you're transferring from Goshen to NYLT, that's going to put a bit of a kink, because really you should be going through a quarantine before you go to Goshen, and then a different quarantine as you're going to be with a different group at that point. So that's one of those situations that we'll have to kind of handle offline and see how that's going to play out. But as far as just being in the same area for 2 different camps consecutive weeks, then I would say you're good to go at the beginning.
All right, and when again is when does everyone's merit badge registration, or in the case of Camp Catoctin, when does registration open?
So for Camp Catoctin, we expect the registration to open late April. We're still defining our program and settling out our staff program. We can do this because we are in mid-August. So stand by, we'll get the word out.
All right, thanks, Kurt. And then for anything Goshen related, the plan is to open merit badge registration on the 16th of April. So 16th of this month, I should say.
And how about Snyder Specialty Week?
I will let Craig weigh in on that.
Same thing. For Snyder, we're opening registration on the 16th of April. If you go to the registration site, you can see the list of the 47 merit badges that will be offered. That's posted right now.
All right, thank you, Craig.
All right, this is another first-year camper or new scout program related question. Is this program good for scouts who may be in their first year of camp but have made it through a bunch of advancement requirements?
That is a great question. Each camp between Marriott, Bowman, and Olmsted all cover slightly different requirements in our first year camper programs. So if you check out our first year camper program schedules on the go-to-goshen.org, that is where you can see the requirements that are going to be covered that week, and then you can know whether or not it'll be repetitive for those particular scouts. because we don't cover exclusively only scout or tenderfoot requirements. We do cover some other requirements for other ranks. We do requirements that are appropriate to cover at camp in the great outdoors setting.
And I think that, just to add on to that, I think that as far as a first year program goes, I think people sometimes get confused in saying, well, this is the first year program, so my scout is this is their first year at camp, we need to put them into this program. They don't necessarily have to be in the program if it's their first year at camp. But if we do it as kind of a nice little convenient way to knock out some requirements and then also get a few merit badges. But if that's not the best program for them, they can they can just take merit badges as you normally would.
Exactly. We have 11-year-olds who sign up for Trailshead who know more about camping in the great outdoors than I do and have no place being in Trailshead. And we have 13-year-olds who are completely new to the world of scouts who Trailshead could be appropriate for to really cover some of those basics. It really depends on the individual.
Absolutely.
All right. For troops that have a boy troop and a girl troop, can members from the boy troop and the girl troop be in the same cohort?
Wow, that's a good one. Talk about a hardball. I'm gonna have to get clarification on that. Whoever wrote that, go ahead and email me offline. I'm gonna write this down now. I do not know for sure. The soft answer I would give is no, just based on the fact that BSA mandates that they do need to be two distinct troops. So similar to a regular season, if you will, at summer camp, you wouldn't be able to have those two come together as just one troop. So they probably wouldn't be able to come together as one cohort either. But let me write that down and follow up with that. Thank you. That's a good question.
All right, I think we need a little bit more description on how cohorts, so if you have your troop, and your troop is maybe 15 people, so that could be one cohort. Then going around to different groups, you might have micro cohorts, which would be at least 2 scouts, but could be up to your 13 scouts because you've got your 2 adult leaders. So you could have them go around as an enormous group, or you could have them go around in buddy pairs, and they could be doing the same track all day. You could be with the same buddy all day, or could you be with a different buddy as long as that buddy is from your cohort at different periods during the day?
So that's correct. Again, as of right now, you can be with a different buddy from your cohort for different classes as long as they're in your cohort, knowing that they are going to be separated out in those classes. And I keep giving those details because I think a lot of us think about summer camp and we think about the days of 7 or 8 youth from different troops working on a colossal pioneering project together. That's just not going to be the case when they go to those classes. They're going to be separated out. And that's why I say, for the purposes of working on certain activities, it might be more fun or more productive if you have, say, 4 youth that have very similar schedules to encourage them to take very, very similar, if not identical badges, because then you have that cohort of 4 that is in all of their classes together and they get their pot of 4 and they can do those things with each other. But the minimum is just that one additional buddy, and that can be a different person in your cohort. And that's again why I touch on if you're a troop of 60, you have those 2 options where you split into multiple small cohorts or you split into 3 larger cohorts, and that 3 larger cohorts gives you a little bit more options of people to form your merit badge classes with. So yeah.
All right. Are there going to be any activities or programs that are different this year or that won't be happening this year due to COVID? And will the trading post be open?
So yes, I will say in the affirmative, the trading post will be open. As far as programs not being offered this year, I do know that, we've kind of slimmed down our merit badge schedule, as many of you have seen. And it is important to remember that some of your merit badges you will get partials on, unless you can do some of these requirements before or after camp. Simply the most simple and obvious one is life saving. We're not going to be able to cover every single requirement of life saving. It's just not feasible. So similar to that, I think that the only larger scale program that's really on the table as are we doing this or are we not doing it right now, is water sports, which we basically said it is almost impossible to socially distance cohort groups on that boat to do water skiing if you're going to Bowman or Marriott. So it's still in waitlist period right now. Please do have, or not right now, we haven't opened for merit badge registration yet, but once we do, please do have a backup option if that is your option. If we get to a point where we're opening summer camp and we just simply can't do it, then we can't do it. And maybe we have a cohort that all wants to take water skiing. That's a large enough cohort. But even then, it's very difficult to keep the staff member distance too. So some of those kinds of things we're not going to be able to offer, but for the most part, we've got a full exciting program at all of our camps planned.
Speaking of water sports and aquatics, how does the 10 feet separation work at aquatics?
Yeah, again, so I think same principle, right? So if you're doing those requirements, you're doing them with people in your cohort. So that's why we said at least one, you're doing it with a buddy. Accepting that, the more people you can get into that cohort, the more similar merit badge schedules you build, you're going to be better. But we are going to keep, whether you're on the dock or in the water, you're going to keep 10 feet of distance in between you and another cohort. So.
All right, we've got a handful of questions. Can you speak about the refund policy? And then specifically the refund policy with regards to COVID, if somebody gets sick coming to camp, if they aren't able to get a negative test result or quarantine or things like that.
Yeah, so we actually adjusted the refund policy early on in the game this year to address that very situation. So anybody who, this is the simplest way to say it for Goshen or Snyder, that is, anybody who wants a refund for any reason whatsoever will get an 85% refund, thus keeping a small handling fee, who requests it before the 31st of July, which is the last day of camp at either of those facilities. After the 31st of July, then we're done doing refunds, right? So we do not want you to come to camp if you are sick. I cannot say that enough. We do not want you to come to camp if you're sick. We will give you your money back all the way up to the 31st of July for any reason whatsoever, as far as a refund goes. But once we get past the 31st, then we're cutting it off and we're done doing refunds. So that was the adjustment. Usually that deadline is in like mid-June timeframe, but that's what we'll be doing this year.
All right, let me grab another question. This is for Drew. Is Bowman Brigade going to be a thing?
Yes, it will be.
And for anyone wondering, that is the Bowman New Scout program. All right, let me grab another one. Is it going to be one cohort per campsite, or will latrines be shared? How does that work?
Latrines will be shared in some scenarios, depending on how big your cohort is, how big the campsite is. I think all of you have kind of been to our camps and know that there's kind of clusters of tents around a fire pit. That cluster is going to be where your cohort stays during that week, and we're we're going to redesign and build the campsites around that concept with the numbers of who's coming in mind. But there will be some latrine sharing. Obviously, we'll have the sanitization materials and such. And you're not, again, not supposed to be within 10 feet of anybody outside of your cohort, even at the latrine.
All right. Are there still going to be open activities during the day? Things like free swim, open shoot. If troops are doing troop activities like a troop swim or troop shoot, how does that work?
As of right now, yes. Again, subject to change. We are going to do our absolute best to handle and accommodate that, knowing that there is going to be a limit to those things. So we can't necessarily accommodate, everyone showing up to the waterfront, and we can't ignore those social distancing principles. So there may be changes to that, but as of right now, yes, we are still planning on offering some free period time.
All right, this is actually a me question. A group has 40 to 45 people coming. How do they register their one troop as two cohorts? Just make one registration. You'll manage the cohorts at your level. So it's just like managing patrols. You don't need to label the patrols, or in this case, the cohorts in the system. You manage that on your end. Just make one registration. Everybody's all in the same place digitally. Oh, now I have to pick a non-me question. Give me a second. All right, how many scouts per tent and how many adults per tent?
So, good question. The maximum is 2. We simply just don't have the tent space to accommodate everybody having their own tent. And in some situations, people are hazy of that in general. You are welcome if you as a parent are comfortable with your youth tenting alone. You are welcome to bring your own tent to camp. If you as an adult would like to tent alone, you are welcome to bring your own tent to camp. But we are going to be putting no more than 2 in any given tent. And we are, this is directly out of our protocols, we are encouraging people to sleep head to toe if you're sharing a tent with someone else, just as one added layer in the Swiss cheese model, if you will.
All right, back to adult questions. Can one Scoutmaster still manage their 2 separate cohorts if their troop is large enough that they had to split into 2?
They can still, they can still be the Scoutmaster for sure, but you're going to need proper adult leadership with each of those cohorts.
All right, and another adult question. So we've got cohorts, which is your group of 25 or less. And then you've got micro cohorts, which is your buddy or more than one buddy from that same cohort that you're going around to program with. You need the 2 adults with your cohort, so the group of 25 or less. Do you still need the 2 adults with each micro cohort?
No. Similar to any camping season, those youth we're okay with them with their buddy going to merit badge classes.
Here's a fun one. Are hammocks allowed?
Yes, they are allowed at camp. What is our rule on that, guys? On how far off the ground they can be?
Low.
The lower, the better. Closer to the ground, the better is what we like. But yes, hammocks are allowed.
And this one is more of a me one for people looking for the prerequisite documents. Those should be online by the end of this week. So that'll be in the download section.
All right.
Can one of you Goshen camp people talk about the VETS program? Is that going to be offered and how does it work?
Drew, I think that's you.
So the VETS program is an older scout program that that provides added activities for older scouts who've already done a lot of merit badges. How it worked in the past was that the scouts would choose which activities they could do on the reservation, and the VETS director would help manage the logistics of getting that done throughout the week. With the new COVID stuff going on, I don't know how many activities will be available when the summer starts, but that's something that we'll have ready to go by week 1 this summer.
All right, and back to Phil. Can you talk about how transportation works within your cohort? Are we expecting people to drive their whole cohort of 25 people in one vehicle, or how does that work?
No, certainly not. We do want, we want to be as, as practical as about this as we can. So obviously, if you are, breaking into smaller cohorts, that cohort of 5 travels together. If it's a cohort that's larger, like 20, 25, something like that, you can certainly split into multiple vehicles. I would encourage that anybody who is driving those multiple vehicles is the adult as part of that cohort for the week as well. But yes, that is not necessarily needed. And then also, if for whatever reason you can't get enough drivers that are going to be part of that cohort in that scenario, you can certainly drive if you're a parent or something like that. But I would encourage people to wear masks and open windows on the way to camp for sure.
All right, and last question, because we're running into the 7 o'clock mark. Is the ATV program being offered this summer?
The ATV program is being offered this summer. That is a good question. I know we were a little hazy on that at the beginning, but that is an activity that is not terribly difficult to keep social distance. So we will definitely be offering the ATV program this summer.
We have a new leasing contract, though, so keep in mind that the minimum age on it is now 16.
16 for ATV.
And I think we're running out of time. So where should people send questions if we didn't get a chance to answer them?
Please do feel free to email me with any questions or feedback. And I can't stress enough. I do appreciate everyone here just being so flexible. I know that this is a challenging year for us, and we've seen a lot of challenges. And I'm sure we have more to come. And I'm sure that there will be some more changes between now and summer camp as things evolve. But the good news is that we're not out of the woods, but we're coming out of the woods. And we're back at camp, and kids are back to getting outdoors, and that I hope that excites all of you as much as it excites me, because I think we all kind of had a bummer moment last year when we weren't able to have in-person summer camp. So I appreciate everyone's flexibility here. Please keep it up, and let's get excited for our coming summer. Please do email me if you have any questions or feedback, or Sarah if you have registration questions, or any of these guys that can answer your questions on the specific programs being offered.
And before everyone goes, I'd also like to shamelessly plug that we are still looking for instructors at all of our camps. So if you have any scouts or non-scouts who are at least 14 who are interested in working at Goshen this summer, we are still looking for instructors, and they can apply on the gotogoshen.org website. We'd love to see a lot of your scouts out there signing up. They have to be 15 to get paid, and 14 to volunteer, and we highly recommend it. It was my first summer job. It was most of our first jobs ever, and it's a great way to spend your summer. So please consider that as well if you have scouts who aren't going to camp.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Thomas, for not forgetting that. We definitely need staff always. So thank you very much. Thank you to all the panelists for joining us tonight, as this will abruptly cut off on you as well. and have a very pleasant evening. I'll get you off in time if you have another 7 p.m. scouting engagement. Thank you so much. Have a good night.